Mark, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on, Dave.
It's my pleasure. Now, American Resources is a next-generation supplier of raw materials to the massive new infrastructure market. I want to start with an overview of your business.
So we started this business 5 years ago with the sole goal of focusing purely on the infrastructure market, where we could go in and take over operations that were run really inefficiently and had a lot of waste associated with them. And by doing so, we can make them a much more efficient supplier to the steel industry and now as well to the electrification market, really just revitalizing how it's done so that we're getting products to our customers more efficiently and ultimately they can build infrastructure more efficiently.
Well, let's talk about your mining properties for coal in West Virginia and Kentucky. Tell us about those projects and what you expect in revenue on the coal this year.
So what we did is we acquired over $500 million of asset value in Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia. And when we bought them, we shut down the thermal coal mining operations because at the end of the day, it's a dying industry. And what we focused on strictly is the metallurgical carbon business. And by doing so, by acquiring these massive complexes, we've been able to streamline them so that we can generate real revenues and real cash flows. We've given guidance this year of over $70 million in revenue with about a 28% EBITDA margin. But the unique thing about our business is we can effectively double our revenue every year from here on out just by focusing on the assets that we already own today.
And where are those properties?
So right on the border of that Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia corridor. Probably some of the best labor force you'll ever find around there. They're really talented people, and it's one of the major drivers of employment in the region. So they're really efficient to operate. We can access both the East Coast as well as the Great Lakes and the ports down in Louisiana, which gives us extreme flexibility from an operations to get our product across the seas as well as domestically.
Let's talk about the rare earth elements, how you're processing those, where you're getting them, how you're getting them.
When we looked at the market 4 years ago on the critical elements rare earth side of the business, we saw that obviously there's a problem. And more importantly, in the mining industry, there was a lot of waste and there was a lot of environmental runoff. And we wanted to find a real solution to it. And to do that, we partnered with the scientific community. We partnered with major universities. We've gotten hundreds of millions of dollars of grants from the government to develop a process to be able to produce rare earths domestically. We knew we had to find a technology chain to do that. Thankfully, we put that together. We announced our Purdue relationship where we can use chromatography, the only environmental way to actually isolate and purify critical elements. Nobody's doing it in the US today. I'm dead set, and my team is dead set on being the first one to do it. And then also our technology with Dr. Body, our electrolysis technology, absolute game changer where we can not only clean up mining operations, but we can also clean up the fly ash of these utilities, really help clean up the prior coal-fired power plants that you see operating today and the billions of tons of waste that they've produced over the years by extracting the rare earths out of them so you can even monetize the byproducts as well.
Well, how soon will you go into production on the rare earth minerals?
So we just announced, we brought on a guy named Bill Smith. Bill is, unparalleled knowledge of the asset and the technology. He spent 33 years at Eli Lilly developing chromatography facilities and building chromatography facilities, managing the global manufacturing process for them. We are actually right now looking for the location, the site selection to build our first facility with the goal of starting building right away. It's already been designed, so our goal is to have it done, have the first phase of it done this year where we could actually start generating revenues from it.
So what about permitting for the facility?
Chromatography is not overly it's actually the environmentally safest way to do it. So permitting phase and the regulatory environment, it's a lot easier of a process because you're not using really harsh chemicals and acids to produce the product, to purify the product. And then also down in Kentucky on the securing of our facilities, we're actually just sitting on top of existing coal mining permits and absorbing really the bad stuff in the waters to clean up the waters while at the same point producing critical elements that we can then process.
Mark, we've talked a lot about chromatography, using that to process these rare earth minerals. I want you to explain how that works, that technology works.
Ligand-based chromatography it's really not that complicated, even for a guy like me who's not a scientist, to get your arms around. But what it is, it's using basically it's almost like a distillery, right? So when you try to produce a really pure product, you use chromatography, and what ends up coming out of it is the purest product. It's got to be a 99.5% purity. That's why Eli Lilly used it in drug manufacturing. And predominantly most of their drugs are made that way. And so it's basically, I mean, and to build it, it's kind of off the shelf type parts. You're adding different components together and being able to produce it through the chromatography process, and you're basically locking in and capturing and pulling out the elements that when you get to that stage of the process, so that it's only targeting the certain elements that you're trying to grab. Where we've taken our business and what we're focused on is trying to monetize 100% of all of the assets we own. When we bought this $500 million worth of assets, we knew we were only focusing on the met carbon at the time. And by cleaning up the environment, we can focus on extracting the rare earths as well. Our whole entire focus is going after old waste materials, waste mining materials, whereas the stuff that comes out of the ground that's not the coal. And then the fly ash that the utilities produce, as well as with the technology from Purdue, we can recycle existing lithium-ion batteries and recycle existing permanent magnets to produce lithium, to produce neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium from those waste products.
Well, this is a particularly important development then, because most of our rare earth elements come from China and Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah, they produce 85% of the world's rare earths come from China, because in China, they have no environmental standards. They have very low labor rates. So what we had to do is we had to compete based on technology and processes and put together a process that can compete head to head in the cost structure of China. And we've officially done that now. Because of the byproducts that we can monetize throughout the process, and because of the automation and the technology and the way that our teams work together, we can compete against them where, at the end of the day, everybody says we want to be energy independent. We're not. We rely entirely on China for the electrification market, for windmills, for electric vehicles. We're going to put an end to that. Our company's goal is to make the United States energy independent on all aspects, including the electrification market.
And the coal mines, what's the total asset value, and what's the asset value of the rare earth elements on your properties?
We've acquired over $500 million of assets from these big legacy mining complexes. I mean, when they went bankrupt, we went in and acquired them and streamlined them, rebuilt them, made them more efficient. So we put a lot of enhancement into that value as well. And then on the same point, we're using a lot of those same facilities, those same locations to process critical elements. And we'll put this year, we'll probably put about $4 to $10 million to work, depending on how fast we ramp up our revenue base on the critical element side. But the amount of deposits we have, we'll continue to be expanding them because we have the exclusive technology, not only here domestically, but also worldwide to be able to do this. So it's just layering our technology on top of our properties, which we have well over 100 sites we can do, but also our partners' properties that are asking us to come in and help fix their environmental problems.
So Mark, you're going from essentially zero revenue in 2020 to a projected 55 to 75 million in 2021, just on the coal assets, correct?
Yeah, just on the metallurgical carbon, yep.
Okay. I want to talk about some of the key players on your team.
The unique thing about our team is pretty much everybody associated with our company are also equity owners of our business. Myself, and Tom Save and Kirk Taylor, our CFO, and we're all founders of the business. So we're not hired guns that came in here to make this business better. And then we brought on Tarlis Thompson, who had over 25 years of mining experience and bought into our culture of low cost and honestly disrupting legacy industries. And then on the rare side, brought in Bill Smith, 33 years of experience with chromatography, Dr. Body, who developed the patents to utilize electrolysis to process coal waste and coal byproducts as well as fly ash. And then, I mean, even Dan Hassler and the Purdue team, Linda Wang. I mean, we put together a really cool scientific team that are just absolutely passionate about solving these problems and commercializing, generating revenue.
Mark, in summary, what is the essential value proposition? You're trading, as of the date of this recording, at about a 250 million market cap, and that's without reporting any revenue at this point. What's the essential value proposition for investors today in a couple sentences?
Yeah, I would say there's two major points to focus on. One, our met carbon business. Our goal over the next 3 years to ramp up to over 500 million in revenue with about 100 to 125 million dollars of EBITDA. That's without an infrastructure bill. You pass an infrastructure bill, and the amount of steel that we're going to need is going to be tremendous. Then you turn to our critical elements and rare earth business. At the end of the day, we'll be the first company in the United States to be able to process and purify rare earth elements. Our peers are trading at a $7 billion market cap on 200 million in revenue. Our ability to clean up the environment and actually make and utilize waste products to produce rare earths and ramp this up to a couple hundred million in revenue in relatively short order, you're talking a couple of years, is, I think, game changer. And at the end of the day, help make the United States an energy independent country. But doing it in a way that we're actually commercializing environmentalism. I think that's a huge appeal to the investor base, but more importantly, we're going to be able to continue to grow that and continue to ramp it up and continue to grab market share and take it away from China at a cost competitive nature.
You got to love this story, Mark. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Dave, thanks for having me on. We're passionate about it. We love our business, and we're going to fight every day to make it a successful company.